topic. The number of children in the district who come from low-income households has increased quite a bit. That's had a lot of effects on the district. What philosophies or programs do you think the district should use to address those issues?
That's kind of a catch-22 because there's no real way to identify directly who these people may or may not be, and we wouldn't want to. It's a label that we're required to place per the No Child Left Behind law. It's not necessarily fair to the child to say, well, because you come from this demographic, you're going to struggle. It's not always even the case. There's lots of different ways why someone could end up in a low SES situation. But the plan that the district has in place right now, after talking with some of the administrators and also seeing it from my wife being a teacher, is one where they try to identify the different techniques and ways that individually work with students regardless of where they fall into a demographic chart, and then use those techniques to assist that child to go forward. They kind of put all that aside and they identify what works with you, and they're going to do that with the child individually, and they're going to use the techniques that work on a broad scope with everybody. I think that they have a good plan in place, and it's just one of those things where it's hard to say how one child will respond to a certain technique over another.
What do you think is the ideal relationship between the superintendent and the school board, and who do you think should be kind of the spokesperson for the district on policy issues?
That one's kind of unique. I think the relationship between the superintendent and the board is one that should be close. I think they need to be able to communicate their ideas effectively. I believe it is the superintendent's role to determine, based on their knowledge and experience within the district and within teaching, to guide the board or advise them on what options might be the best. It's the board's role ultimately to make the decision on what that will be, but they should talk with each other, they should develop a plan, and they should definitely seek the advice of the individual that holds that position, because they do. I mean, they didn't get there overnight. It's not like you hired someone with no experience or no background. I would hope that the superintendent has been an educator. I think that having one that works within the district and has worked within the district for many years is a valuable asset, because they know what we've done, they know what we've done well, they know where we've struggled, and they can better advise on where we need to go.
The district administrators and board members have relied heavily upon legal and procedural advice from the Iowa Association of School Boards. That group has come under a lot of fire recently for various issues. What do you think should be the future relationship between the district and the IASB?
I don't think it's fair to judge an organization based on the actions of a few. How many times do we see in the media or the news a law enforcement officer that has made a bad choice? Do we label all law enforcement officers to be bad because of what one has done, or an entire agency because of what a couple have done? I don't think that's fair. I think that individuals acting as individuals should be held accountable at an individual level. The board has a role, it has a purpose, it has served well many, many years in the past. They've had some bad choices made by individuals that work for them in recent days and years, but I think they have identified the problem and they've sought out an answer to solve that problem, and I think they should be given an opportunity to continue doing the work they do.
What do you think is the best plan for Ames elementary schools?
That's a hard choice to make. 6 schools or 5 schools, I assume, is where we're going with that one. And personally, I support 5 over 6, and it's not because, I don't think this building should be used or this neighborhood needs a school. I think it comes back to an issue of sustainability. I know that when it comes to putting the building into operation, you're talking about a fund of money specifically geared towards facilities, and we have the capital to do that. What I'm worried about is the long-term sustainability of the operation of that building. Can we do it? We struggled with it about 6 years ago, and that's why we closed some of the buildings we did. And though we can always find the money to keep it operational. We're going to have to sacrifice programming probably to do that, and that's what my fear is. And I've yet to be informed or advised in such a way that I believe that it can be sustained long term without sacrificing the programming that we offer.
So, is Roosevelt at all a sticking point to you in support or opposition to the current plan that's out there?
Not really. I like the sites that we operate right now, but Roosevelt isn't really my sticking point. I don't necessarily think that it's the best option, but it is an option, and it's one that would work if we chose to go that direction.
What about the high school's future? That's something the board has kind of said is going to be the next step after elementary schools are addressed. Any thoughts on where we should go with that?
Well, the high school is a unique beast. It's been renovated so many times and so many different wings of it, and it needs to be looked at again, and they need to address some of the problems that they have and make a more sustainable building out of that. I don't really know a whole lot on the high school issue. I've kind of picked up and read a few things here or there, but there's so many different components to that project. I think they were talking about 3 to 4 phases of renovation to be done. It's a very complex issue, and I think they've got a good idea on what to do with that.
So why should people vote for you?
I feel that I bring to the table someone who has supervisory experience, that has been in a position where they potentially might micromanage, but knows that they personally don't like being micromanaged and will be able to identify, hey, that's what I'm doing, and not do that. I know how to do long range planning, and I'm not referring to, just a year out. I'm looking from a different model where, we need to look towards the future 30, 40, 50 years out. We need to set very broad-based goals. And the farther out we can go with that, the better we are going to be at achieving them. Because if we can look 30, 40, 50 years out and say, where as a district do we want to be? What are we going to need to do to get to that point? Then we can better establish a 5-year goal and then a 1-year goal. How are we going to obtain that? By making benchmarks within that, you can better address what you need to do right now.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I would hope that people get out and vote. Obviously, I hope that people will support me in my efforts to become a board member. And just that when it comes to some of the diverse choices that have had been made, that I will offer them as a board member someone who's going to look at things logically. They're going to put aside their personal feelings and thoughts, and they're going to try and do right by the entirety of the district so that the choices that are made will best serve everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.